Hello everybody, this is Mark here at Gary's Guitars in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and I'm here to give you the most unglamorous pedal review video. The pedal review that nobody asked for, but I want you to know about. The Electro-Harmonix LPB-1. It's worth it. Trust me. Let's talk about it. So, it was one of the first effects that Electro-Harmonix ever made. The LPB-1 was a plug-in. It actually plugged into the jack of the guitar, and then you could plug a cable into. Oh no, it had its own little cable in it, I think. Yeah. So it was before. It was a pedal before there were even pedals for it, and it's a preamp boost. Why is it important? Why do I recommend it? Why do I keep one nearby at all times? There's a few reasons for that. So, the historic significance of it. It's a very simple, and so this is the modern version. Retails for $60-ish, I think, from Electro-Harmonix, and it is not glamorous. It's got one knob and one switch, one in and one out. It runs on a battery or a Boss style 9-volt adapter. Why do I find it so useful? A few occasions. One is when your guitar and your amp aren't necessarily matching. The impedance of your signal going in isn't making your amp kind of light up in a certain way. And I came across this for real, and it was a problem when I got a Gretsch that had high-low trons, those single coil Gretsch pickups from the 60s. That are very low impedance. And now there's actually a very low impedance kind of trend in pickups. For a while it's higher impedance, pushing the amp harder on the way in. And there is a beauty you get by, using low impedance pickups, a definition, a headroom. However, if the amp isn't loving it, it's going to be a struggle. And so I found in a pinch, I grabbed this, I plugged my Gretsch into it, I plugged it into my amp, I gave it a little bit of boost, and it didn't change the characteristic of the sound, it just made the amp and the guitar interact correctly. The way, because it was my amp that I used a lot, so I'm very familiar with what the amp can and should do. So, it can help you match things up. It can give you a little more oomph before you get to something. Now, that's the case of an amp, but sometimes I use it before an effects pedal. Even something like the Soul Food from Electro-Harmonix reacts really differently if you throw a little more power on the way in, and you get a different reaction. So with a Soul Food and an LPB-1 side by side, which I mentioned to them they should do that, you can have just overdrive, you can have just boost, and you can have boost and overdrive. I also like to have it in my board and set for, at maybe 10 o'clock or something like, not a crazy amount of boost. You know that thing when you get on stage and everyone's kind of getting their stage volume together and you're like, damn, I'm too loud. Then you can reach down and grab the knob on your guitar and turn it down. Or, more importantly, damn, I'm not loud enough. Or I want to play a solo, but I don't want to get distorted. I just want to get a little louder. Here it is. This is the secret sauce for that. So we could be breaking into our first song, and I was like, I just didn't really hit the, set my amp at the right volume. I want to get through the song. I click this on a little. I can use my toe to operate the knob a little bit if I had to. And I can put myself in the parameter of stage volume that I want to be at. And then also, like I said, if you can set it so that when you go for a solo, you turn up, but you don't get more distorted. This does a lot of clean boosting. It says it's linear. It will distort if you get it cranked up. The other thing I recommend these for is when you just need a lot of clean gain to match up something like, for example, a Leslie speaker with a guitar. That's the other thing I use it for. If you're playing a guitar into a Leslie speaker, a Hammond organ is a very low impedance, high wattage signal. And that's kind of the opposite of a guitar, which is very high impedance, very low wattage. And so if you're plugging in, and also the Leslie speaker doesn't have the first stage of gain. It just is, it's a power amp without a preamp in it. but this can sub in for the preamp if you're plugging into a guitar, plugging a guitar into a Leslie in the studio, and you need the Leslie to light up a little bit. Just anywhere you need something to light up a little bit, I recommend the LPB-1. I've also used it for in cooperation with a splitter. I had a customer who was running some tracks, and he wanted to split to two amps, and I had a splitter, but it wasn't really, splitting the impedance between those two amps. So this was in a recording. Splitting the impedance between those two amps kind of made the amps not kind of react right. So out came the LPB-1. I put it before the splitter, and it gave a little boost. And so as they got split, it made each signal going to, so we're splitting the signal, but we turned up the signal going into each one. It made each amp behave like it should. And it worked out great. So nobody ever, this is an unsung hero for me. Nobody ever, it's a very ubiquitous thing. Like I said, I've been making them since '68, I believe. And you see them around. And there's all sorts of other boosts that, we sell them. The Earthquaker's got one that's just crazy boosty. Everyone makes some kind of boost. This turned out to be the one I like the most because it's simple. It doesn't try to introduce distortion. It could if you're, but it introduces distortion further down the line a little bit if you hit it hard. But it's just a great little tool. They don't cost a lot of money. And when I recommend them to people, I have to start with that same caveat I was telling you about. Like, I know what you're going to say. This thing doesn't look glamorous. It doesn't have a light. Oh, it does have a light. The original ones didn't have a light on them. It doesn't look glamorous. It doesn't, it's inexpensive, so it might sound like it, to you. You might think it's a budget, item, kind of an Amazon pedal kind of thing. No, it's a serious pedal. It's simple, but it's very useful. So, once again, the LPB-1 from Electro Harmonics, and you can find them used too. We sell them new here. But get your hands on one, keep it around. It comes in handy. So, thanks for watching. Check out all the other videos here on YouTube. As I mentioned before, I'm kind of doing two different kinds of videos now. I'm doing reviews and I'm doing editorials, and I'm doing them parallel. Hopefully one of each every week. So, we'll see how that goes. There are different popularities of different people, so send a comment if you do like getting reviews. Send a comment if you do like the editorial type videos. Just put in a comment and subscribe and all that good stuff, and we'll talk to you soon.